Based on the recent force and velocity with which Donald has been lying, it seems like he's trying to break the land speed record for mendacity. It also turns out that women are as disgusted by JD Vance as he apparently is by them, and don't even get me started on how cats feel about him. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being here with the Nerd Avengers. Before we jump into the show, hello, Jen. Hello, Danielle. I want to let everybody know that we are this close to hitting 100,000 subscribers. So thank you to everybody who subscribed, and to those of you who haven't, please do so. It's really simple. You just click the subscribe button, and it doesn't cost anything. It just means you're going to be alerted anytime we have new content dropping, which is every day. So thanks again to the viewers who have helped make that happen, but also thanks to our team who've been amazing. Jen, Danielle, Mercedes, you guys have been doing the heavy lifting, producing incredible content, and we're loving every second of it. So couldn't do it without you and the other nerds, and of course Adam and Steven and Kyle and all those guys too. So let's go with the show. Where to start? I'm telling you, Jen, that between Donald's performance, if you want to call it that, at the National Association of Black Journalists event in Chicago, which, by the way, is a city that we're going to be taking over next week, which we'll get to later. And his I think bonkers is the technical term for his press conference, which was essentially a staged event with friendlies who didn't do any fact checking or even expect their questions to be answered, let alone follow it up on. And the just fabulous Twitter space he held with oligarch, anti-democratic, anti-American, incompetent fellow incompetent rich guy, I should say. It seems that the Trump campaign is floundering. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it seems like the Harris-Walz campaign is on a completely opposite trajectory. So I just kind of want to get your sense of what's happening, sort of in the macro of it all, and how you anticipate where this is going, based on the fact that this has been the path we've been on for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah, it is really astonishing to me how he is tripling down and spiraling out of control. My favorite thing, Mary, from last night, I didn't watch, but I've watched the clips of the Elmo and Donald, I'll call it conversation in quotes, because it was more like Elon was asking a question of Donald, and Donald kept talking on and on, and then he would throw another question at him. My favorite thing is the absolute FAFO, fuck around and find out. They completely trashed labor unions, and Donald praised Elon for union busting. I don't know if you saw this morning, but the UAW has filed an unfair labor practices complaint against both of them. I mean, it warms my heart to think that there was something beneficial about that conversation.
Yeah, and Danielle, there was somebody actually got the headline right. This was it. Donald and Musk share tips on running companies into ground. Now, of course, that headline was from Andy Borowitz, legendary satirist. But sometimes comedians and satirists are the most accurate truth tellers. So um, it's just incredible how we see media struggling to grapple with this new reality too. I mean, they just can't seem to understand, having learned nothing from 2016, um, who Donald Trump is, how to handle him, and conversely, how to handle the fact that Democrats are an array.
I mean, I think that we give corporate media probably too much credit in the fact that they can't seem to handle Donald Trump. No, they're handling him exactly the way that they want to be handling him, right? Which is exactly the way that they've been doing it since 2016. Donald Trump is good for their bottom line. And so they're going to continue to run like lapdogs to his basement, right? And, sit for bullshit press conferences rather than, I don't know, let's say pointing live cameras at Kamala Harris and Coach Walls's, tens of thousands of people that are showing up to support them. It's in this moment that I realize that, yeah, in 2016, I think it was fair for us to say that the media didn't know how to handle Donald Trump. I think it was fair because we'd never seen a figure, a character like him, right? So it was enthralling and captivating in a way. 9 years fucking later, you're telling me folks don't know how to get their act together? Like, so I think it's ridiculous. But the thing that I will say about I don't even know what you call it. And I appreciate Kamala Harris HQ is my new favorite Twitter account, by the way. And the HQ statement was just like, our comments on whatever the hell this was, right? Because you can't call it an interview when you're both just, I don't like, it was the biggest fluffing event I've ever seen. Okay. I'll just call it that. It's a fluffer event. That's what it was. Yeah. And the lie about, there being tech issues and this, that, and the other thing, lie. But my favorite lie, or my favorite thing, was the fact that Donald Trump doesn't know what any of his wives look like.
Well, one of them apparently looks exactly like E. Jean Carroll.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. So when shown a picture of E. Jean Carroll during his deposition, who is this? Because remember, he had said E. Jean Carroll, not his type, right? So apparently you only rate people that are your type nonetheless, but not his type. And then it turns out, oh, that's Marla. No, it was E. Jean Carroll. Now he sees Kamala Harris, a woman of Indian and Jamaican descent, on the cover of Time magazine in a sketch, and says to Elon Musk that this looks like Melania. What are you, sir? What are you? Oh, she's attractive, but it's a drawing. It looks exactly like Kamala Harris and nothing like your Eastern European mail order bride.
Yeah, I want to go back to your very good and well taken point about how the media is doing it. It's sort of like, is the system broken? Is the system acting exactly as it's designed, right? And I think when, I see a lot of people saying the same thing, how this is from David Corn. In 2016, Donald, quote, exploited the give him a shot, let's try an outsider. How bad could he be sentiment among aggrieved Republican independent voters? And then his conclusion is the media have learned nothing. I agree with you that this is not about journalism anymore. This is about clicks and income and what have you. I still don't understand why telling the truth about him, as long as he's the subject of it, telling the truth about him and his fascism and his insanity and stuff, I don't understand why that's not going to get clicks and too, but whatever. So I kind of bang up against the whole, and we don't have to have a conversation about it, but like, this is where I get stuck. Like, how is it that legitimate people who we might have considered legitimate journalists 8 years ago have just abdicated all allegiance to their chosen profession? Like, that's kind of where I get hung up. Go ahead.
Money. That's all I'll say.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but it's deeply, deeply depressing that's where we are. So I want to look at a couple of still shots to drill down, Jen, on what Danielle was saying about the Harris campaign and how they're just so brilliantly trolling him. This is from Donald. This was his just very eloquent and hard-hitting True Social post about Kamala Harris's crowd that met her at the tarmac in, I believe it was Detroit. So if we could take a look at that, that would be fun for everybody. Okay, so this is what Donald's fevered mind came up with. Has anyone noticed that Kamala? Oh my God, he didn't call her Kamala. Good for you, Donald. Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it. For those of you not in the know, that means what does that mean? AI, because we just say AI, and I totally forgot what it means. Automatically, what is? I'm seriously, help me out here. So, what does it mean?
AI'd. What does it mean?
Like, what does it stand for? Thank you. Oh my God!
It means artificial intelligence. He's verbing.
I've been reading science fiction since I was like 3 years old. I knew that. I just like space. Sorry, because we only call it AI now. Thank you, Mercedes, for helping me dig myself out of a hole. He AI'd it. He artificial intelligence. For those of you not in the know like me, and showed a massive quote unquote crowd of so-called followers. No, Donald. She has supporters. You have followers, idiot. But they didn't exist. She was turned in by a maintenance worker who called him sir, no doubt, at the airport when he noticed the fake crowd picture, but there was nobody there. Later confirmed by the reflection of the, oh my God. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. You understand. Like this is how he rolls. So here's a side-by-side comparison of the, here's two photographs that he's referring to. One, yeah, here we go. So on the left is the crowd with the airplane in the distance. On the right is the damning evidence that the reflection in the plane doesn't show the crowd. Therefore, the crowd must be fake. Sure, Donald. Yeah, exactly. Like, give the guy a Sharpie and he can change the path of hurricanes. All right. So this is what the Harris campaign, which, by the way, Jen has a Truth Social account, posted on Truth Social. Oh, that's just the picture. It doesn't say what they said, so I guess I screwed up. Anyway, they posted this on Truth Social. And it basically was just said something like, you know, this is what a real crowd looks like as compared to yours. So, I mean, they're on Truth Social adding Donald Trump, and it's just a joy to behold. So, Jen, they know the assignment, as the kids say on, I think, Instagram or Threads, maybe. It's not just about highlighting the threat. It's about mocking the infinitely mockable Donald Trump.
I am so flippin' impressed with what's going on Kamala's socials. As someone put it, I think outside the campaign, but a big admirer, you know, oh no, actually, I think it might be someone who does comms. Like we just basically set a bunch of like Gen Z kids loose with no supervision, which is like fabulous. But Mary, I happen to have the counter clip to show you, because I keep in my back pocket, you know, the receipts to show from crowdsourced from the web of the various people who were at that hangar. And do you mind if I just throw it up on the screen right now?
If you can, sure. Why not?
Look at that.
We're getting thumbs up everywhere.
That doesn't look like AI to me, Mary.
It's getting very sophisticated, the AI now. I'm so impressed. Look, those fake people look very real. Almost as if they're actually there.
You know, I mean,
we can take that out.
The fact that thousands of them were able to use AI to make that happen. That's impressive to me. Thousands of different videos.
It's so the fact that he's,
but back to your kind of main point, like about what's the best thing that you can do, and you've talked about this from mashed potatoes, Mary, and beyond. Donald Trump needs to be mocked. I don't normally think bullying or mocking is a way to interact with anybody, but he is not anybody. He is a modern day flippant Hitler. And if we do not use every tool in our toolkit, and the best one.
Did you steal that from JD Vance?
Oh gosh, I did. Huh? I'm vice president material, I guess. Well, anyway, no, but the reality is we have to use every tool in the toolkit right now. And the thing that hurts him the most is holding a mirror up to him. And so what the Harris campaign did this morning was genius. They had, or actually it was last night, right after the Elmo Donald conversation, they just put up clips, unedited, no comment. Hold a mirror up to him, and he will, he will shrink, because that is not what he wants to see. And everyone around him, this morning on Morning Jen, I talked a lot about the politics of joy and unity versus the politics of grievance and division. And we're seeing it in polling, and we're seeing it in enthusiasm, that we are choosing joy and we are choosing unity. And he cannot undo where he is, because he can't do joy and unity. So he's going to sink. And I'm here for the ride.
Although, Brian, thank goodness he has such a great partner in JD Vance, because JD Vance is just doing a great job. In fact, we know that the more people see him, the more they hate his guts. So that's really helpful. That's the most amazing thing at picking Vance. He magnifies Donald's negatives and brings no positives at all.
Well, his eyeliner.
All right, I don't want to talk about eyeliner. I really don't. If he wears eyeliner, good for him. I mean, there are much more relevant attacks. Yeah, let's mock him in a way that's not about his choice of.
Well, then let's mock him for his hillbilly elegy stuff.
Let's do that.
There's so much to mock about JD Vance. He's just the gift that keeps on giving. He's a human shapeshifter who has no idea what politics is about, but he is there for Donald Trump, and he is there after calling Donald Trump Hitler. And apparently, Donald Trump took that as a compliment and brought him onto his ticket. The problem that the Republicans are facing is one right now on social media where they used to win all the time. That they found someone and I'm going to make a shout out here to the comms people at the Harris campaign, who seem to understand social media as well as, if not better than, Donald Trump, which is one of the key problems that the Biden administration has had for the last 3.5 years. So give it to Harris for that. What you have to wonder, again, is the conversion of that into votes. But it's looking like on every given day, that when Donald Trump opens his mouth, I'm with you, Danielle. I don't think you really need to bully him, or Jen. My point is, my wife is a fan of the Golden Girls, so I'll quote the Golden Girls here. I'm not only because I've had to watch it for years and years, because my wife loves it. But here's the thing, you're not patronizing him. You're not bullying him. You're mocking him and showing that. And Donald Trump, he loves the mirror, Jen. He loves to sit there and look in the mirror at himself. What he doesn't like to see in the mirror is who he really is. When that is reflected back on him, that's when he panics. When you mock him, when you use his own words against him, Donald Trump has no defense against that. And it was one of the key problems he had in dealing with the press when he was president. If we stuck to our guns and asked him a hard question and went after him for the things that he said, that's when he folded like a cheap suit and went nuts. And that's the problem that he's going to have going forward. And the fact that the Harris people seem to have the key to that quiver is something that he's not going to be able to deal with, Mary. And I sometimes, in talking with the Harris people, I often wonder if they've sat there and picked your brain for about 18 hours straight, because some of the things that you've said here, they're doing there. So it's refreshing to hear that they listen to the people in their audience, and they react to and do the things that are needed to gain attention in a positive manner for a Democratic Party that was moribund prior to her joining the party as its presumptive candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who they've been listening to, but I know that I and a couple of other people have been saying this since 2020. You know, he's a terrible danger and threat to America, but he's a bully and he needs to be mocked relentlessly. And if anybody has a problem with that, then you just need to look at what this man has done and how he's mocked other people. And you know, the idea that somebody with his power would use his bully pulpit to attack private citizens is that's enough permission right there. But there are many other reasons that. Who cares? Like, really? Like, it's bad form. And Danielle, we do see a lot of this pearl clutching when, you know, I can't call it a dad joke because it was a little bit on the racy side, but Tim Walz just makes an oblique reference to a couch meme. And all of a sudden, Democrats are hypocrites because we've been calling the right out for their misinformation as if you can equate the two things. It's just absurd. But I want to switch gears a little bit. I mean, it's sort of related. In the wake of the staged event at Mar-a-Lago, in which we essentially watched Donald's brain melt out of his ears until
if he has one,
the plants. Well, I mean, he has one. He does have one. It's just who knows what kind of shape it's in, and that's sort of what my point is. The plants in the audience rescued him from the complete meltdown he was having. I mean, it looked at moments like he was about to decompensate, quite honestly. So NPR fact-checked this monstrosity, and in their analysis, there were 162 misstatements, exaggerations, and outright lies in 64 minutes. That's more than 2 a minute. It's a stunning number for anyone, and even more problematic. That's a jarringly polite word for this, for a person running to lead the free world. Okay, yeah, great. We have fact checking several days after the fact. Nobody even knows what they're referring to anymore. And two things they've missed here: misstatements, exaggerations, outright lies. How about delusional references, and how about completely nonsensical tangents? So Danielle, I feel like we are so far beyond fact checking. One, because they've never done it properly. You know, Lawrence O'Donnell made a very good point. You could do it in real time with graphics on the screen, because you can't. If you fact check him verbally, as we tried to do, you end up talking over him the whole time because he's constantly lying. So you could do it with graphics, but I think this needs to happen yesterday. We need panels of mental health professionals explaining exactly what he's doing in terms of his psychological defense mechanisms, like what purpose are these lies, misstatements, delusional references serving in terms of his psychopathology, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? And is there another way beyond mocking him that we can, you know, help clarify to people who just haven't been paying attention, I guess, what exactly is going on here?
I mean, it is wild to lie 2.5 times per minute. I mean, that, like, the compulsion that exists there, the inability to speak without lying. This is DSM-5 worthy. I am not a psychologist, but like, you tell me about compulsive behavior and I'll show you a photo and video of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. I think that what Lawrence O'Donnell offered is something that the media should have instituted, I don't know, 9 years ago. Right? I think that when you realize that Donald Trump is a habitual liar, that it wasn't just ha, 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 look at him saying all of these outrageous and outlandish things. I think that it is wow, this is incredibly corrosive and dangerous. I'll give you this point. The European Union put out a statement yesterday ahead of the quote unquote interview between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And in that statement, they wanted to remind Elon Musk that millions of people inside of the EU were going to be watching this video, and which means that he needed to follow the laws inside of the EU that are about disinformation and misinformation, and that there will be penalties. And they said ahead of time, you cannot allow Donald Trump to go unchecked and speaking live, knowing that he is going to be within a place where we are already experiencing these extraordinary uprisings by right-wing fascists and white supremacists inside of the UK, for example. And so I'm like, they put together this statement. We have nothing like that in the United States. Right? We have known and we have watched as Donald Trump's rhetoric turned from casual bullying on social media into a full-blown insurrection, right? And so when Lawrence O'Donnell says, this is easy stuff, this is a light lift, every time that he says something, just run the ticker below or next to him. That is telling us the truth. I find it, again, I will just say, this is not a misstep by the media. The media is doing exactly what it wants to do, which is to elevate Donald Trump, right? There is no way that you kind of look at what is happening and say that all is okay. There's no way that, by the way, did anybody see Joe Biden on a bicycle the other day riding around Rehoboth, Delaware? There wasn't wall-to-wall coverage about his agility and stamina, right? But the press has to go to Donald Trump's basement in order to hear from him because he doesn't have the endurance to be on the campaign trail. But again, we're not going to talk about that.
All about money. It's all about the money.
It's all about the money. And it's extraordinarily short-sighted.
Well, of course it is. But
besides all of the other things it is. But I just want to, I want to kind of drill down on this because we've talked about this a lot, the whole, hey, this is democracy here. We're talking about the choice between democracy and fascism. And we keep getting told that that's not resonating with people. Well, I'm so sorry, people, but that's kind of important. All right. So it doesn't have to be about one thing. The weird thing, that was effective. It didn't replace anything. These things need to be additive. It's about having other arrows in your quiver. And I realized something. I mean, it's not like this is a huge epiphany or anything, but I think it sort of, Jen, shines a light on why making this about Donald, and to a much, much lesser extent, Vance, is effective and needs to be done more. Okay, so it's because Donald's narcissism and his nihilism have made it impossible for him to have a legitimate successor. So one condition of being in his inner circle, of being his surrogate, especially if, like Vance, you've crossed him in the past, is that the only way to prove your loyalty is to subjugate yourself to him completely, right? So that's how you get in. However, it renders you incapable of being seen as a leader in your own right, because nobody is going to vote for somebody who's shown themselves to be a total worm, and who will kiss the ring of who is, I swear, I promise you this is true, the weakest person I've ever known in my life. I mean, Donald Trump is such a blistering loser that anybody who kowtows to him, or worse, like gives their soul, so to speak, over to him, like, is it measurable how weak that person must be? So, I mean, I think if we put it in that context, this tactic actually does really not to replace the other more substantive stuff, but it really has legs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to what you're saying and thinking and reflecting on people who Donald emulates throughout history. And it is rare, and I'll give an exception, for an authoritarian figure to have a successor, except when their successor is their child, because it becomes kind of like a dynasty, right? And so you think, and part of the reason why that is what you're talking about. The only way to get into someone's inner circle like that is not to be a threat, not someone who will like depose you or undermine you, right? And so on the one hand, that makes me, and mostly on most hands, it makes me hopeful, because as you're saying, Donald doesn't want to allow for that. And it doesn't seem like MAGA, even though he feeds off his supporters, they don't have power in their communities, the MAGA folks, without him in power. So I do think if he is toppled through this process of humiliation, hopefully huge humiliation, at the ballot, and he isn't able to, stir people up to commit more violence, and we have a peaceful transfer of power, I just don't see Donald having the legacy he hopes. That said, I think he will try to run again for office if he loses. So the question is, do not shake your head at me, Danielle, I'm sorry, but at what point? Because the problem last time, the question is, when will people stop giving him control of everything? Will this be the moment? I don't know, but I don't think I don't think 4 times is a charm. And I think he's going to go away for the reason that.
Yeah. I mean, okay. But Brian, I know we need to get to you. I just want to make a very quick point. First of all, if Tim Walz is Kamala Harris's vice president for 8 years, and then theoretically, because he said he has no interest in doing this, but theoretically, and then runs for president and is president for 8 more years, he'll still be younger than Donald Trump is now. Okay, so there's that, which I kind of love that. And yeah. I think, and we can talk about this later, but I just kind of want to make this point for us to refer to at some future time. The reason he, and I don't mean succeeded in the sense that he won the election, because obviously he lost in 2020. What I said in 2020, that he needs to lose by such huge margins that he is, that the narcissistic injury to him is so great that he'll essentially implode. That didn't happen because the big lie was allowed to spread, and he was allowed to prop himself, to assuage himself by believing that it had been stolen from him, right? Yeah. And, so it's like this self-soothing behavior that then gets magnified and spreads to the entire Republican Party. I think the real question is, how much more, assuming Donald loses, and as we know, he's like electoral poison down ballot. Let's be hopeful and assume that he loses. The question is, how much more losing is the Republican Party willing to put up with? Anyway, that's, I just want to.
There are those in the Republican Party now who are done with him. The only reason why you're not hearing more from them is they've left the party or left him to his own devices. Do not mistake MAGA for being the majority of the Republican Party, just the majority of the loudmouths with the money in the Republican Party. But this speaks, Mary, to the point that you and Danielle were making earlier about the media. The idea of real time with graphics, that takes money. And guess what? We don't have the staff anymore. It takes a staff of 6. I've done this, been a part of the staff fact checking him. The only one that does it is Dale, what's his name, over at CNN on occasion. He does a fairly decent job of it. But the fact is, it's cheaper and more profitable for the networks to cover Donald Trump in his entirety and let us rant and rave about him, and they rake in the cash. That's a problem that's got to be solved.
I'm not a particularly fast typer. I could do it. It's absurd.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry. It's absurd.
I'm
not saying you're wrong.
At the very least, what they could do is, when he calls out the very blatant lies that we all know that you don't really need to fact check, like the simple fact of the matter saying abortion was no big deal. I did it because everybody wanted to. Hello.
or how about Democrats kill babies? Brian, hang on 1 second. Danielle has to leave in a couple minutes, so I just want her. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting Brian today. Brian, I owe you a drink.
I love you.
I think, or
Don't
so.
worry about it.
He likes bourbon.
I think we're all going
That's
to be
right.
seeing each other
Kentucky
sometime
bourbon, I'm
very
in.
soon. So I can rectify this situation. Anyway,
I'll be in
Danielle, I know
Chicago.
you have to run. So I just want to give you the last.
Yeah, I just, I think that, look, we say that these things take money, but we know that money is burned by media on a regular basis, right? Like, I still go on set at MSNBC, and guess what? They don't have anymore makeup artists, right? For the people that are coming in, because they had to cut the budget over there since COVID. It's bullshit, because there's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is a lie. You put money where you find value, and they don't find value in fact checking Donald Trump. They don't find value in the truth, right?
Or in helping their guests look good,
or helping their guests look good, or any of those things, or the ecosystem of workers that they had, right, that made the networks run. They're not interested in that, because it's like the airlines. Once you realize that you can start charging people for the fucking baggage, you think that all of a sudden you're going to stop doing that? No, you're going to nickel and dime them now. If you want your ankles to not bleed while you're fucking flying, well, you got to pay an extra $100. That's what the media is doing. So it's not like there aren't people that are there. It's that they want the money to stay with their CEOs and their shareholders at the expense of our democracy and the American people. It does not matter to them. Democracy is not lucrative to the point that Brian is making, right? But at the end of the day, they lose it. Guess who's going to be out of a fucking job? The quote unquote free press, because there won't exist. They don't have multiple outlets in China, right? They only have state TV. That only requires one complicit network, right? You don't need multiple channels. So I think that they do themselves a long-term disservice. But what I recognize is that there is no long-term planning here, that they are only interested in the immediate gratification of Donald Trump in this moment, which is clickbait. They don't care about the long-term impact that will come later on, because they're like, later on, they'll be on their island. They'll be on in their fourth and fifth home. They'll be on, another Epstein jet. Like, they don't care. And I think that that's why I continue to tell people when I do my show on your network, Mary, as well, like, people subscribe here to Mary Trump Media, subscribe to independent media, like, distance yourself and disconnect from cable news, because they are not there to serve you. They are there to serve themselves. The fourth estate no longer exists in the function that it had throughout the history of our democracy. That's just not their jam anymore. And
you just quoted my book.
To that.
I love you. I don't know if you know. That's so. God bless you for saying that. That's great. That's exactly right. She nailed it. She nailed it. She nailed it. God damn.
Oh, she always does. Come on. It's if this comes as a surprise anymore. Danielle nails it.
No, Danielle, I love you for saying you don't. It's for being in this business for so long. The government did this, folks. It started with Ronald Reagan when they started allowing multiple ownership of media properties, and then the media. There's 6 companies that run everything. They're in it with them, and the rest of us are screwed, blued, and tattooed. Love you, Danielle.
Thanks, Danielle. I mean, it's very weird how short-sighted it all is, and how ignorant it all is. So if it's okay, I'm going to shift gears, and I want to talk about Vance a little bit more. Again, as he admitted, as Donald said, and as Vance admitted, VP picks don't matter. Okay. And I know that hurt JD's feelings, but good. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to the message he's conveying, because Donald is an incoherent mess. And again, we need panels. This is what so-called news channels need to be doing. Instead of the panels of lawyers, as helpful as they were helping us navigate the many, 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 many trials and verdicts and what have you, we're not there anymore. Everything is on hold right now, thanks to the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court. We're in, holy shit, this guy is the Republican candidate for president. I mean, that's where we are. So I want to see panels of clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, neurologist, neuropsychologist, neuropsychiatrist, and what's the other one? Like gerontologists. Like seriously, that's what we need to be. Those are the people who need to be informing us. Meanwhile, JD Vance, Jen, is out there actually articulating the Republican platform. He was, on all the Sunday shows being very weird and creepy because he can't help it. And, he, despite being married to a woman of color and having biracial children, he tried to clean up Donald's racism, which is just disgusting on levels that I can't even comprehend. But then he had this to say about the plans for mass deportation, which are outlined in the fascist playbook, Project 2025, which Donald's denials aside is exactly where this Republican Party is headed if we allow them to stay in power.
Kamala Harris's open border policies. You've got to do something with the people who are already here. And I think that you take a sequential approach to it. You are going to have to deport some people. If you're not willing to deport a lot of people, you're not willing to have a border when there are 20 million illegal aliens in our country.
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean...
Well, John, I think that's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay,
so you go knock on doors and ask people for their papers,
again, but
what do you do?
Let me finish. I think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable. You do that, and then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that if you deport a lot of violent criminals, and frankly, if you make it harder to hire illegal labor, which undercuts the wages of American workers, I think you go a lot of the way to solving the illegal immigration problem. But look, President Trump is absolutely right. You cannot have a border unless you're willing to deport some people. I think it's interesting that people focus on, well, how do you deport 18 million people? Let's start with 1 million. That's where Kamala Harris has failed, and then we can go from there.
He's weird. He's disgusting, but he's also a fucking monster, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, there's two pieces of this. There's the fascism and the brutality. He won't acknowledge that even deporting 1 million people would be horrific. Dragging children out of schools, dragging people out of their homes, dragging workers out of fields. That's one thing, and I don't want to skip over that. And in addition, if you want to see some inflation, why don't you deport 1 million people or even 500,000 people who are doing the work that others won't do? And I'm not saying that everyone who's undocumented has to, that's, to be clear, undocumented people, first of all, pay their taxes, huge amounts of money. I forgot what the number is because they do that. Two, they're picking vegetables and doing other farm work in the field, which keeps our prices down. And three, this is supposed to be, I still believe in Emma Lazarus and her poem. I still believe that we should be bringing in more people from other countries because that adds to our joy, our diversity, our evolution. And it's racist, it's xenophobic, and it's when he says, let's start with the people that are the outcasts. Now, first of all, if someone is in prison, they're already in the process of being deported. You don't have to start rounding people up in this special way. You start with people who are the weakest, and then you accuse everyone of being a criminal. So I suppose we should start with Donald because he is also a criminal, right? That's not what they're talking about, right? And they're talking about brown people, whether or not they've been adjudicated as criminals. They might have a misdemeanor parking ticket. They're talking about rounding people up, separating families, and brutality, and then in building concentration camps to house people during this process. This will be our neighbors. These will be our friends. These will be our children's friends. I'm against it, and he's a pig.
How do you take this seriously? First of all, let's break down what the man said. He lied. First of all, violent criminals, the immigrant population in the United States is not responsible for most of the violent crimes, okay? That's people who are living here, who are born here. Most of these people are hardworking migrant workers, and there used to be a pathway to citizenship for them, and they would hire them. And as far as don't hire them, this guy doesn't even understand the law. There is already a law on the book called the Simpson-Mazzoli Act, passed in 1984 and 1985. It used to be illegal to enter illegally, but you could hire them legally. That changed it. But what happened? The Republicans were the ones who decided not to prosecute under that because they realized that if they did that, then you're going to have construction companies fail. You're going to have horse. By the way, everybody likes to go to the Kentucky Derby, right? The race of champions. Well, that whole circuit, there's an entire circuit of horse workers that come across the border, work for the Triple Crown, then go back across with their savings every damn year. This is a bullshit issue. It's just xenophobic at its very, and I'm pissed off that Jonathan Karl didn't push back and apparently didn't know the law any better than J.D. Vance, who made a bunch of shit up that isn't accurate about the immigrant community and about the laws in the United States. And by the way, we do deport them. We have been on the border. As they capture them, they take them back across the border and they deposit them. But guess what, folks? Here's the thing that they don't want to tell you that you don't really know that you need to know is that an illegal immigrant who comes across into the United States and is captured will come across at least 3 more times and eventually will not be captured. Because why? There isn't enough people on the border. And guess what? It's the Republicans who kept from investing in the United States Border Patrol. Why are there huge lines at the border every time you go across? Huge lines where you wait 2 hours in traffic that makes LA look like a jaunt in the country. It's because we don't have enough border patrolmen at the checkpoints. And by the way, most of the illegal drugs come over at the checkpoints, not smuggled across by illegal immigrants, but smuggled in trucks and trains as they come across doing regular legal traffic. This is a bullshit issue. It's been a bullshit issue, and the Republicans won't stop bullshitting about it. And having covered it for 40 years, sorry, I just got a little into it.
No, listen, I do not understand why this is as big an issue as it is. Shame on corporate media for basically allowing it to be framed the way it's been framed. Somebody said recently that Donald Trump needs to stick to his 2 best messages, which are the economy and immigration. First of all, the economy, that's a friggin' joke that he has anything to say that's helpful to his campaign. He tanked our economy and he's an idiot. But immigration, like, why is immigration more important than all of the other issues facing this country? It's obscene. And
give them an enemy. That's what it is. Give them an enemy. That's out of the Hitler paper.
Right, I know that, but then why? It's the same mistake that was made. Like, the Democrats fell into this trap with immigration. This is the same mistake that was made in allowing Republicans to frame themselves as pro-life in the abortion rights issue. I'm so sick of this. As Mercedes pointed out, immigrants pay over $11.6 billion in taxes every year. They're hard workers. They get hired by people. It's like prostitution in this way. It's like prostitution in this way. That the men who hire prostitutes never get in trouble. I know I'm not like, I think prostitution should be legal. I'm not comparing anybody to a prostitute. I'm just saying that it's the same kind of dynamic. An immigrant comes across the border illegally, gets hired by a landscaping company or gets hired by some rich guy to clean his pool. He gets caught, and the guy doing the hiring, nothing happens to him. Exactly. It's only it's just, my position is we are a country of immigrants. It is not illegal to seek asylum in this country. Why can't we try to say, oh, okay, you're fleeing horrific circumstances. We're a sanctuary country. You need a job. There are plenty of people hiring. There are plenty of jobs that Americans don't want to do. So you'll pay taxes, and there's a path to citizenship. I mean, why can't we try that? I don't understand this. I mean, we now have smiling white women, old white women at Donald's rallies holding signs happily, giddily, that say mass deportation. It's grotesque. And anybody who perpetuates the way this is playing out and being argued should be ashamed of themselves. I just have make us feel even worse. I'm going to remind everybody that yesterday was the 7th anniversary of the rally in Charlottesville. And for those who don't remember, a bunch of neo-Nazis went to Charlottesville carrying tiki torches, allegedly to protest the fact that a park was being renamed. It was named for Robert E. Lee. Yep, look at those pathetic little Nazis. They were protesting renaming the park. It was named after Robert E. Lee, which you may know, whom you may know is the greatest traitor to America since recent times, anyway. Who was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans, directly and indirectly. A vicious, vile traitor whose whole purpose in life was to make sure that rich white guys could enslave, torture, rape, and murder Black people with impunity. I mean, that's what these guys were protesting, that Charlottesville didn't want a park named after that monster anymore. And of course, I'm not entirely sure why the chant "Jews will not replace us" had anything to do with Robert E. Lee, Jen, but clearly this was not just about Robert E. Lee. And tragically, one of those white supremacists committed an act of domestic terrorism by driving his car in a crowd, injuring 35 and murdering Heather Heyer. So,
yeah, I mean, it's really frightening how this sort of xenophobia and this fear of white replacement, links in to hatred of Jews. And I only recently, it was only 7 years ago, after Heather Heyer was murdered, and there was the Charlottesville rally, and I'm a Jewish person, that I even knew about this replacement theory. Like, I had no idea. If there was a theory and there was a plan, don't you think someone would have told me? I mean, I guess I'm not included in the Elders of Zion meeting because I'm not old enough.
You didn't get George Soros' newsletter? Yeah, you should sign up for it.
I am still yet to be paid.
The newsletter comes every month with a very nice check, and I mean,
well,
I'm an honorary Jew.
You know what? In fairness, there was a choice. You could pick, and I did choose the space laser, so maybe that's why I don't get a paycheck.
No, I didn't realize there was a choice. Well, maybe I'm on a different list. Who knows? I just do want to say, something very quickly. Our friend, the great Robbie Kaplan, was an integral part of making sure that those vicious white supremacists who created chaos in Charlottesville, and again, were largely responsible for the murder of a white woman, were held accountable. Brian, you were there.
Yeah, interviewed a lot of them. At first they blamed Antifa, which was funny. And one shout out.
So weird they don't want to take responsibility ever.
One shout I will give, that I saw a beautiful act of humanity that day, and it was by a group of LGBTQ people who had a first aid tent there, and they took everyone who was hurt. Didn't matter if they were racist, didn't matter what side they were on. They were like the Red Cross, and they were there. And those people need to be thanked profusely for being humane, kind, and showing the empathy that I wish others did. Now, for the racists, when I interviewed them, they said they were there. The replacement theory is huge with them, and you have to understand what their replacement theory is, and it's been ongoing since the John Birch Society in the 50s and the 60s. They don't remember when Martin Luther King said we can't take the shield of the oppressor. We have to have equality, true equality. These people think that what minorities want is superiority, and they don't want to cede theirs. They think that they're going to be treated like they were minorities, acknowledging the fact that minorities are not treated equally and they are treated with superiority. They cannot accept the fact that equality means true equality, that, it's a meritocracy and that everyone is entitled to the same rights and the same Bill of Rights and the same Constitution. They think that they have, by birth, inherited something that is better than what everyone else has. And the other thing I will say, being there that day, I will never forget the irony of them preaching against foreign intervention and foreign economic systems, and screaming against China and Russia while they're marching with tiki torches made in China. Just going to throw that out there for those who forget. And then and then at the end of the day, what you came up with from those people, and the most frightening thing about it was their glaring ignorance of history and their arrogance at not knowing it, and their profuse belief that somehow they're being wrong when others have the same rights as them.
Yeah, ignorance of our history is responsible for so much of what we're dealing with right now. It's
and I blame the media for that too.
blame corporate media, but also it's very clear why Republicans want either to eradicate public education or render it useless by whitewashing American history. Okay, so in other news, yes, in both senses of that word. So in other news, as Danielle said earlier, Europe gets it. Europe totally gets it. So leaders in Finland, of all places, released this totally badass video that I wanted to share with you.
Out on a terrace, I don't know if it's fair, but I thought, how could I let you fall by yourself? Well, I'm wasted with someone else. If we go down, then we go down together.
Seriously, like that is amazing. That warmed my heart. So thank you, Finnish Parliament, for doing that, because we didn't get to it today. We'll get to it next time, but just because it's not in the news every day, although it should be, the fallout from the overturning of Roe v. Wade continues to be felt every single day in this country by women and girls, and it's by their support systems, their families, their partners, by doctors and healthcare workers who have their hands tied in many instances. It's a tragedy that continues to unfold and worsen. We cannot forget that. We are obviously in uncharted territory here. It's very difficult to manage all of, because it's not just like news that we need to focus on. It's these campaigns and this completely historically unique event we're all living through. So I'm kind of hoping after the Democratic convention in Chicago that we can get back to focusing on the issues and the policies that separate the two, because you guys, the campaigns are absolutely light years apart in terms of what they represent. Just hope, light, happiness, enthusiasm, energy on the one side, grievance, anger, rage, fear mongering, and the narcissism of one tiny man on the other. So that's great, but let's remind people about the fascist playbook that is essentially the Republican Party platform versus what Democrats want to do. So we'll get there. Just so all of you know, all of us and Danielle are going to be there next week. So we're going to have lots of amazing content for you. It's going to be exciting. Look, Jen already got her nails done. I don't do that kind of thing. So Jen,
I'll do it for you, Jen.
Brian.
Also, pedicure. I'm not going to show my feet. But
yeah, I'll get a pedicure, but I'm all into closed-toed shoes. Anyway, so it's going to be amazing. We're going to have all sorts of great content for you. But before then, of course, we have our regularly scheduled content. So every day at 2 and 6, we've got what we are now calling Rapid Response, which is my short videos. We've got the Nerds Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern. On Wednesday, every day we've got Morning Jen at 8 a.m. Eastern. Danielle's Get Woke twice weekly. We've got Brian's Reverse Shot Saturdays and Democracy-ish on Fridays and America Show. We've got all sorts of stuff coming your way constantly. So please, Brian, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to make a special pitch. When we talk about the media this week, we're going to talk to someone in the media who can tell you exactly when and where it went wrong for literacy and how we have failed young people. So it's going to be a very interesting deep dive. But
Is it you? Is it you saying that or someone else?
Nope. We have someone who used to ever remember the Weekly Reader when you were growing up? Someone who, and United Press Syndicate, a very well-known and very versed man in how the media has fallen apart over the last 40 years. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation.
All right, so check it out. That's Brian Kyram's Reverse Shot on Saturday. Again, please subscribe. We're trying to get to we are trying to get to 900,000, but let's start with 100,000 first. We're almost there. I'd love to do that today. That would be amazing. So thank you all so much for being here, for your time, your attention, your comments, your subscriptions, for liking the videos, for sharing them with people you think will enjoy them or get something out of them. We will see you soon. Morning Jen tomorrow at 8. Nerds Thursday. In the meantime, please stay safe and be kind. Bye.